Alright. Hello doctors, welcome back to Pirates of Medicine. Today we are back with another biochemistry based solution video, probably the second last video in this series. If you found this series helpful for your crock preparation, please hit the subscribe button, please like this video, share it with your friends, the whole shenanigan. And without any further ado, let's begin, let's end this. So 1 to 1 is that emotional stress causes activation of hormone sensitive triglyceride lipase in the adipocytes. So what secondary mediator takes part in this process? So what secondary mediator takes part in the enzymatic action of triglyceride lipase? They're asking this question. So first of all, let's see what triglyceride lipase does. So you should know that the fat is stored in the adipocytes or adipose tissue in the form of triacylglycerol, TAG. Now what is TAG? So TAG is a molecule in which 3 fatty acids are attached to different carbon in a glycerol molecule. So at the first carbon here you can see the first fatty acid R1 is attached. Here R2 is attached, the second carbon of glycerol molecule, and here third R3 is attached at the third carbon of the glycerol molecule. So this is a normal triacylglycerol structure, correct? R1, R2, R3 can be any fatty acid. So fatty acids are stored, or fat is stored in the adipose tissue in the form of triacylglycerols. Whenever the fat is needed, this triacylglycerol molecule needs to be broken down so that free fatty acids are available for any reason, for formation of ketone bodies, for actually beta oxidation of these fatty acids, for formation of more fatty acids, for formation of phospholipids. So you need to break down this triacylglycerol into the constituents, the free fatty acids. So what enzyme takes part in breaking down this TAG molecule into glycerol and free fatty acids? It is hormone sensitive triacylglycerol lipase, the enzyme we talked about in the question. Correct. So this enzyme is hormone sensitive. What does hormone sensitive mean? So if you look at the mechanism of action of hormone sensitive triacylglycerol lipase, so you can see this triacylglycerol is converted into diacylglycerol. One fatty acid is removed, and further one fatty acid removed, it forms monosylglycerol. And if all the fatty acids all three are removed, then glycerol molecule is formed. So hormone sensitive TAG lipase is active and it acts on this reaction. Now normally hormone sensitive TAG lipase is in an inactive stage. Now it needs to be activated for it to start its working. So the activation of this lipase depends on ATP. So ATP comes to this enzyme and tells the enzyme that okay, you need to be now activated because we need to mobilize the fat. So ATP comes, it gets itself converted into ATP, and in the process it activates TAG lipase, correct? Now this action of ATP on the enzyme, the activating action, depends on the enzyme protein kinase. So protein kinase is the enzyme which activates this TAG lipase. So the protein kinase activity is stimulated by CAMP levels. So if the CAMP levels are increased by the help of the enzyme adenylate cyclase, this adenylate cyclase is a complex present in the cell membrane which converts ATP into cyclic adenosine monophosphate, a secondary mediator. So this secondary mediator has a stimulatory action on the protein kinase which converts the inactive form of TAG lipase into active form, and lipolysis is done. So which hormones have a positive action on adenylate cyclase? We have epinephrine, norepinephrine, glucagon, thyroxine, glucocorticoids, the pituitary hormones. We do what? They activate adenylate cyclase and increase CAMP levels. Now here CAMP does what? It activates protein kinase which ultimately activates TAG lipase, and this converts TAGs to DAGs, MAGs, and finally glycerol. So this is how free fatty acids are generated, which can be used for whatever reason. Insulin, niacin, and prostaglandin E1 has an inhibitory action on adenylate cyclase. So again CAMP levels will be decreased if insulin acts on the cell, insulin acts on the adenylate cyclase, and ultimately activation of hormone sensitive TAG lipase will be impaired, correct? So this is how these hormones influence the TAG lipase. Also, CAMP is further degraded to 5-AMP with the help of phosphodiesterase. So if again CAMP will be converted more into 5-AMP, it will not be available to activate protein kinase. So insulin here stimulates the conversion of CAMP to 5-AMP so that it does not activate protein kinase, and caffeine on the other hand inhibits it so that more CAMP levels are there. So if it is more, so CMP are more, then they will activate protein kinase more, tag lipase will be activated more, and triacyl glycerols will be converted into glycerols and fatty acids more. So cyclic AMP is the secondary mediator. The gist of all this cycle, you should remember, cyclic AMP activates protein kinase, which activates hormone sensitive tag lipase. So in our question over here, the answer is cyclic adenosine monophosphate. So 122 is that a patient has been diagnosed with alkaptonuria. Choose an enzyme which deficiency can be the reason for the following pathology. So if you remember the phenylalanine and tyrosine mechanism or the pathway, then you can see phenylalanine converted into tyrosine, and during the tyrosine's own metabolites, tyrosine can form either DOPA, it can form thyroxine, it can form tyramine, it can form DOPA and dopamine and norepinephrine. But the another path which tyrosine molecules can go is the tyrosine metabolites. So tyrosine is converted into parahydrophenylpyruvic acid with the help of tyrosine transaminase, which is further converted into parahydroxyphenyl pyruvate dioxygenase, which has copper as a coenzyme, into homogentisate. Now homogentisate molecule is converted into fumaryl acetoacetic acid with the help of homogentisate oxidase, and if this enzyme is deficient, then what would happen? If homogentisate oxidase is deficient, then homogentisate will accumulate in the body. This accumulation of homogentisate is called as alkaptonuria or black urine disease. So obviously I just told you that the defective enzyme in alkaptonuria is homogentisate oxidase. Yes, and in this case homogentisate accumulates in the tissues and blood, and it is excreted into the urine. When it is excreted into the urine, and if the urine stands for some seconds or some minutes, it is oxidized. The homogentisate in the urine is oxidized into quinones, which give the urine a black color. This is why this is called as a black urine disease. Now homogentisates in the body forms a pigment called as alkaptonone by various enzyme action. This alkapton deposition occurs in various parts like connective tissue, bones, and various organs like nose and ear, which results in a condition called as onchronosis. So this is alkaptonuria. You can see the symptoms: black urine, onchronosis, tendinitis because of accumulation of alkapton, kidney stones because of accumulation of alkapton, and kyphosis or hunchback. So I hope you understand why the answer is here homogentisate acid oxidase, because alkaptonuria has deficiency of this enzyme. Correct? 123 is that a patient diagnosed with carcinoid of Boyle's was admitted to the hospital. Analysis revealed high production of serotonin. It is known that the substance is formed of tryptophan amino acid. What biochemical mechanism underlies this process? So we have done this biogenic amines topic a lot. So if you remember, serotonin is a biogenic amine which is formed from tryptophan. How is it formed from tryptophan? Tryptophan, with the help of tryptophan hydroxylase, is converted into 5-HTP or 5-hydroxy L-tryptophan, which on further action by aromatic L-amino acid decarboxylase, note down this enzyme, ALAD, it is converted into serotonin, which scientific name is 5-hydroxytryptamine, 5-HT. So this is by the action of a decarboxylase enzyme. So by the decarboxylation of tryptophan, serotonin is formed. Simple? Good. So 124 question is that a genetics specialist analyzed the genealogy of a family and found that both the males and females have the illness, not across all the generation, but that healthy parents may have ill children. What type of illness inheritance type it is? So note down that both males and females have the illness, but not across all the generations. So if you look at this chart, you can see that here this man is a carrier which has a mutated gene, correct? And this woman also married to this man has a mutated gene, but she is again a carrier and she is not manifesting the disease. Now when they both have children, what will happen that one of the children out of four, 25% of chance there will be that he will inherit both the defective mutated genes, and this will be affected, correct? This will be the affected person, but all the other children, the 75% of them will be unaffected, and genotypically 50% of them will have one of the infected genes and they will be carrier and they will not be manifesting the disease, while one of them will only have a normal gene, 25% chance. So here you can see that in this case this generation does not have manifestation of this disease, while the next generation, there is a 25% chance of manifestation of this disease. So you can see this is autosomal recessive pattern of inheritance, in which both males and females can have the disease. It is not related to X or Y chromosome, but the disease is not seen across all generations because some of the generation will act as carriers. So this is autosomal recessive. 1 to 5 is that analysis of amniotic fluid was obtained as a result of amniocentesis, which is the puncture of amniotic sac. It revealed cells of nuclei of which contain sex chromatin, Barr's body, only one. So what can this be an evidence of? So Barr body is what? It is an inactive X chromosome in a cell with more than one chromosome. So if there is more than one chromosome present, more than one X chromosome present, the extra X chromosome is called as a Barr body. Now with the help of this process called as lionization, the other X chromosome is rendered inactive, correct? So what is the formula for finding how many Barr body anyone has? So the number of Barr body is n minus 1. So n is the total number of chromosomes in that person. So say we have a female. Now female has 2 X chromosomes. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So the female has 1 Barr body. A male, XY, correct? He has only 1 chromosome. So 1 minus 1, 1 X chromosome. 1 minus 1 is 0. So the male does not have any Barr body. Now let's see the genotype of a Klinefelter male. So Klinefelter male has 2 X chromosomes, correct? He is a male. Normally males should not have a Barr body. But 2 X chromosome, 2 minus 1 gives 1. So a Klinefelter male has a Barr body. On the other hand, a triple X females has 2 Barr bodies because 3 minus 1 is 2. So this is how you will analyze. Now here the person has only, the patient or the baby has only 1 Barr body. So typically if you don't know here they have not mentioned the sex of the baby, correct? So if there is only 1 Barr body present, you won't just go directly, that this is a Klinefelter syndrome. It can just be a female fetus. So this is why the answer is female fetus, because females have 1 Barr body present in them, correct? Simple. So I hope you remember this formula. Klinefelters have 1 Barr body even though they shouldn't because they are males. Triple X females have 2 Barr bodies when they just should have 1 normally. X minus 1 where n minus 1, where n is the total number of X chromosomes in a somatic cell. 1 to 6, vitamin B1 deficiency results in a disturbance of oxidative decarboxylation of alpha-ketoglutaric acid. This will disturb synthesis of the following coenzyme. If you remember, we did this question before. I told you that vitamin B1 thiamine, is an important cofactor for various enzymes. We have done a lot of pyruvate dehydrogenase, but also vitamin B1 is an important cofactor for alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, which is an enzyme of the TCA cycle which converts alpha-ketoglutarate into succinate. So vitamin B1 being deficient will cause disturbance of oxidative decarboxylation of alpha-ketoglutaric acid, and succinate will not be formed because thiamine TPP is a coenzyme for alpha-ketoglutarate dehydrogenase, correct? Good. So 1 to 7 is that a child's blood presents with high content of galactose, glucose concentration is low. There are presentations like cataract, mental deficiency, adipose degeneration of liver. What disease is it? So you can see that there is a disorder of galactose, there is high content of galactose, and also you see manifestation like cataract, mental deficiency, adipose degeneration of liver. So this classically goes to classical galactosemia, in which there is a deficiency in the enzyme galactose 1 phosphate uridyl transferase. This enzyme is responsible for galactose metabolism. Now, this leads to accumulation of galactose in the body if this enzyme is deficient, and galactose, when converted into galactitol by aldose reductase enzyme in the eye, can cause cataract in the eye. Also, galactose 1 phosphate accumulation, which is a metabolite of the galactose pathway, its accumulation in the various tissue leads to various manifestation of galactosemia. It corresponds to our patient. This is why the answer is galactosemia. 128 is that according to clinical indication of a patient was administered pyridoxal phosphate. What process is this medication intended to correct? So we need to understand the mechanisms by which pyridoxal phosphate influences our body's metabolism. First of all, you should know pyridoxal phosphate is a vitamin, correct? So it is vitamin B6. It is the coenzymic form of vitamin B6, correct? So vitamin B6 is made up of three compounds. It is used to refer three compounds: pyridoxine, pyridoxal, and pyridoxamine, the vitamins of B6. It is present, pyridoxamine is present in plants, while pyridoxal and pyridoxamine is found in animal foods. Now, the active form of vitamin B6 is coenzyme pyridoxal phosphate, or PLP. So, pyridoxal phosphate is a coenzyme for various reactions. It participates in reactions like transamination reactions, correct, where amino acids are converted to keto acid. It is a coenzyme for decarboxylation of amino acids, correct. It is a coenzyme for synthesis of alpha aminolevulinic acid during hemoglobin synthesis. We studied about this, correct. It is also used for synthesis of niacin coenzymes, the NAD and NADP, from tryptophan in the kyanurine pathway. The enzyme kyanurinase requires PLP. It is responsible for various transulfuration reactions, the transfer of sulfur. It is responsible for deamination of hydroxyl group containing amino acids like serine and threonine. It is responsible for action of glycogen phosphorylase. It acts as coenzyme for glycogen phosphorylase, which converts glycogen to glucose 1 phosphate so that glucose can be used again. So according to this, we know that pyridoxal phosphate is used for transamination and decarboxylation reactions. So this is why the answer is transamination and decarboxylation of amino acids, correct. Good. 129 is that a 45-year-old woman suffers from Cushing syndrome, steroid diabetes. Biochemical exam revealed hyperglycemia, hypocholelemia. Which of the under-mentioned process in the options is the first to be activated? So Cushing syndrome means that there is an abnormal increase of glucocorticoids. And an abnormal increase of glucocorticoids will cause with the various effects associated, pharmacological effects associated with glucocorticoids. So in glucose metabolism, glucocorticoids, they increase gluconeogenesis, which causes hyperglycemia. So this is what acts first, which occurs first, and this is the cause of hyperglycemia in this woman of Cushing syndrome. Also, we have studied about all the other pharmacological effects of glucocorticoids as well. You can note them down. Anyway, let's go to the next one. 130 is that autopsy of a 46-year-old man revealed multiple brown and green layers of hemorrhages on the mucous membrane of rectum, sigmoid colon, slime, and some blood in the colon lumen. Histologically, fibrinous colitis. So there is fibrinous colitis. In the course of bacteriological analysis, they have already told us that there were in the colon content, they have Shigella sone. As sone means Shigella sone. So what is the most probable diagnosis? So you should know that Shigella sone causes dysentery, correct? And even if you don't know Shigella sone causes dysentery, fibrinous colitis is a stage of dysentery, fibrinous colitis. It is the second stage that occurs during the pathogenesis of dysentery caused by Shigella. First we have catarrhal colitis, we have ulcerative colitis, we have healing stage of ulcer. So these are the stages, and you should know that Shigella causes dysentery, and fibrinous colitis is the second stage of Shigella dysentery. And also we posted this question and explanation on our Instagram. If you have not subscribed, not followed our Instagram page, go follow. We post a lot of quizzes and quick revision notes over there. You may find them useful. Anyway, without any further ado, let's go to the next one. 131 is that a patient has been ill with bronchial asthma for many years and died from asthmatic fit. Histological lung examination revealed lumen of bronchioles and small bronchi contain a lot of mucus with some eosinophils. There is sclerosis of alveolar septums, dilation of alveoli lumen, and what mechanism of development of hypersensitivity reaction took place. So remember, there are four main types of hypersensitivity. The first type is also called as anaphylaxis. It is also called as atopy. It is also called as Reagenin reaction. And this is a type of hypersensitivity which involves the antibody IgE, which links to the mast cells, which ultimately release vasoactive mediators like histamine, etc. Now, the manifestation includes systemic anaphylaxis and localized anaphylaxis such as high fever, asthma, hives, food allergies, and eczema. And this is the type 1 hypersensitivity which we see in our patient. So remember, reagenin, atopy, anaphylaxis, anaphylactic shock is commonly seen in. First of all, you should remember that type 1 hypersensitivity relates to eosinophils and IgE antibody. Correct? Manifestations liquid anaphylaxis. It includes hay fever, rhinitis, asthma, hives, food allergies, and eczema. And bronchial asthma is one of the diseases in which type 1 hypersensitivity is very high. So this is why the answer here is Reagenin reaction, which means type 1 hypersensitivity. Correct? Good. Let's go to the next one. So 132 is that disulfiram is widely used in medical practice to prevent alcoholism. It inhibits the enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase. Increased level of what metabolite causes aversion to alcohol? So let's look at the pharmacological action of disulfiram. So before that, we need to know how ethanol, alcohol metabolism takes place. So when you take ethanol or alcohol, most commonly called as, it is converted with the help of enzyme alcohol dehydrogenase into acetaldehyde. Correct? And note that NAD plus is used for this reaction and acetaldehyde is formed. This acetaldehyde is converted further with the help of aldehyde dehydrogenase into acetate, and this is how ethanol is metabolized in our liver. Now disulfiram, or also called as antabuse, market name, it inhibits the enzyme aldehyde dehydrogenase. Now if this enzyme is inhibited, what will accumulate in the blood? If you are continuously taking alcohol, acetaldehyde will accumulate in the blood, and this acetaldehyde has various toxic effects. It causes vomiting, it causes aversion to alcohol, and this is why this is used in rehab, so that the people who have chronic alcoholism, they are given this drug so that their metabolism of alcohol is interrupted at the formation of acetaldehyde stage, and more acetaldehyde is formed, which leads to accumulation of this metabolite, the acetaldehyde, and the people, when they vomit, they say or they mentally develop aversion to alcohol, that I don't want it now, it is making me sick. So this is the mechanism of action of this disulfiram. So you can see here acetaldehyde will be accumulated. 133 is that a 1-year-old child with symptoms of muscle involvement was admitted to the hospital. Examination revealed carnitine deficiency in his muscles. What process disturbance is the biochemical basis of this pathology? So a lot of time we have answered this question. Remember, carnitine is a metabolite which acts as a shuttle mechanism for taking activated fatty acid into the mitochondria. It combines with the activated acyl coenzyme A. With the help of carnitine acyl transferase 1, it carries the acyl coenzyme A into the mitochondria, because mitochondria is normally impermeable to this fatty acid, activated fatty acid, and inside it lets go of the acyl coenzyme A and it forms carnitine again, and carnitine goes out and continues this shuttle. So this is the carnitine shuttle, and what does it do? Transfers fatty acid into the mitochondrial lumen. 134 is that a patient complains of permanent thirst applied to the doctor, hyperglycemia, polyuria, and increased concentration of 17 ketosteroid in the urine were revealed. So what disease is the most likely? So steroid diabetes is a condition in which prolonged hyperglycemia is caused due to action of glucocorticoid. So we already know that glucocorticoid in increased level cause hyperglycemia due to gluconeogenesis action. So they can cause steroid diabetes if there is prolonged hyperglycemia. It can be either due to increased glucocorticoid production in your own body, or it is most commonly seen when you take a high amount of glucocorticoid drugs like prednisolone or other drugs. So steroid diabetes, it leads to the same diabetic symptoms like hyperglycemia, polyuria, thirst, blood vision, xerostomia or dry mouth as we call it. So this is steroid diabetes. Correct? All the symptoms correspond to steroid diabetes. 135 is that the index of pH of a blood changed then became 7.3 in the patient with diabetes mellitus. Detecting of what components of our blood buffer system is used while diagnosing the disorder of acid-base equilibrium. So we have these various buffer systems present in the blood, which, like we learnt in chemistry, that buffers, they act to maintain acid-base equilibrium. Correct? So let's look at the buffer system. So first of all, the most important buffer system of plasma is the bicarbonate buffer system. It is made up of sodium bicarbonate and carbonic acid. It is the most predominant buffer system of the extracellular fluid and the plasma, and this is how it maintains the acid-base equilibrium in the plasma. Then we have the phosphate buffer system, which is actually an intracellular buffer system. It maintains the pH inside the cells, not in the plasma. It is formed of sodium and dihydrogenous phosphate and disodium hydrogen monophosphate. So mainly an intracellular buffer. Then we have the protein buffer. Proteins also have buffering capacity, the plasma proteins and hemoglobin. So the plasma proteins account for like just 2% of the total buffering capacity of the plasma. The main buffer of the plasma is bicarbonate, sodium bicarbonate and carbonic acid containing bicarbonate buffer. So therefore, if you need to analyze the buffering capacity or detect the components in the acid-base equilibrium, the main component that you should analyze is the bicarbonate buffer system, because if you analyze the bicarbonate buffer system, you can analyze easily if there is a disorder of acid-base equilibrium. 136 is as a result of post-translative modifications. Some proteins taking part in blood coagulation like prothrombin became capable of calcium binding. This process takes place with the help of following vitamin. So a lot of time we have done this question. Vitamin K acts as a coenzyme for converting precursors of clotting factors, which also includes prothrombin, which converts into active form thrombin. It converts precursors of clotting factors into active clotting factors by their carboxylation of glutamic acid. Another carboxylic acid residue is attached to the precursor, so that you can see here we have COOH and COH. Now when they have to attach calcium ions, this H proton, it is lost and there comes a plus charge over here, negative charge over here, and negative charge on this one. So calcium ion, which has 2 plus 2 positive charge, gets attached to this site. Calcium ion's note cannot get attached to here, because here we have only one negative charge if the hydrogen is lost. Correct? You understand? So the activation of clotting factors involves carboxylation of glutamic acid to the precursors, and this is done with the help of vitamin K. And after the carboxylation, addition of this carboxylic acid group, calcium ion can get attached to the clotting factor, And one of the clotting factors that undergoes this process is prothrombin, and this is why the answer over here is vitamin K. Alright, let's go to the next one. So 137 is that objective exam of a patient revealed slender figure, big skull, highly developed frontal region of the face, short extremities. What constitutional type is it characteristic for? So remember, if we talk about the respiratory constitutional type, this particular constitution, you should know what respiratory constitutional type is. So respiratory constitution is found in the people who live in hills, correct? And you know, the people who live in hills, they have less amount of oxygen, partial pressure of oxygen is low in the environment as compared to the oxygen at sea level. So what happens is that they have this development of their whole body structure related to that environment. Their bodies have evolved and they have certain characteristics so that they are more adaptable to that environment as compared to the people living at sea level. So first of all, why there is a big skull? So because normally you know that the site of production of RBCs is in the bone marrow, correct? And the bone marrow is normally, for me and you, it is present in the long tubular bones, red bone marrow, correct? In the long bones of us, say our femur, tibia, correct? But these people, they need a lot of bone marrow to produce a large quantity of erythrocytes. Normally if you take their blood test, they will have a larger quantity of RBCs as compared to you and me. So for that reason, what happens is that their bone marrow is not only present in their long tubular bones, it is also present in their facial bones, in the bones of the skull. So because of that, their face appears to be big. Their skull is big because they have the bone marrow even in their facial bones. And also they have highly developed frontal region of their face for the same reasons, and to correspond with that, they have a short extremities, and this is the characteristic for respiratory constitution. I hope you understand. So that's all for respiratory constitution for you. Then we have 138. A 38-year-old man died during intractable attack of bronchial asthma. Histological exam revealed mucus accumulation in the bronchial lumen, a lot of fat cells, labrocytes in the wall of bronchus. Many of them are in a state of degranulation. There is a lot of eosinophils. What pathogenesis of bronchial changes is it? So I already told you, bronchial asthma, the hypersensitivity reaction seen in this case is atopy, correct? Or the rheogenic reaction, whatever you call it. And you can see here eosinophils are involved, degranulation of the mast cells is involved, and also there is a lot of mucus accumulation. And you should know that bronchial asthma corresponds to hypersensitivity type 1, which is also called as atopy, rheogenic reaction, anaphylaxis. So the answer here is atopy, correct? We already studied this. 139 is that diabetes mellitus causes ketosis as a result of activated oxidation of fatty acids. What disorder of acid-base equilibrium may be caused by excessive accumulation of ketone bodies in the blood? So ketone bodies, remember, are acidic in nature, and it is one of the main complication of diabetes mellitus, diabetic ketoacidosis. So diabetic ketoacidosis is the condition in which there is accumulation of ketone bodies up to so much extent that it disturbs the normal pH balance of our blood plasma. And this condition is known as metabolic acidosis because the acid particles are coming from the metabolism itself. They are not related to increased carbon dioxide content in the blood, so not respiratory. But there is acidosis occurring and it is coming from the metabolism. So this is metabolic acidosis. 140. A woman with blood group O has born a child with blood group AB. The woman's blood group husband has blood group A. What genetic interaction explains this phenomena? So normally this is a condition, if it occurs in real life, it will cause a lot of trauma, correct? That the woman has blood group O and the husband has blood group A, and how can the child have blood group AB? There must be something fishy going on here. But no, as a doctor you should know that there is a condition called as Bombay phenotype, or which is an example of recessive epistasis, in which what happens. So recessive epistasis in Bombay phenotype is a condition in which a recessive allele of one gene, it masks the action or effect of another gene. Correct? One gene in its recessive stage, what does it do? It masks the effect of another gene. So the Bombay phenotype has a special blood group, the H, small h blood group. It contains one antigen, the H antigen, which is found in all RBCs, and it is the building block for the production of the AB antigen. So when AB antigens are formed on our erythrocytes, the first building block that is formed is the capital H antigen. So the blood group AB, the carbohydrate antigen of A, the carbohydrate antigen of B, it is formed on the building block of H antigen. But H antigen deficiency, or the small h, it is called as the blood group Bombay phenotype. So the individuals which have this phenotype, they lack all the antigens. They lack even the O antigen, which is found in the absence of A and B. So think of it is that this way, that that the large H antigen is an antigen present which acts as a building block for the blood groups O, A, B and AB. And a person who does not even have an H antigen, it cannot form O, A or AB. Correct? And what would this person's blood group, how will this blood group will be seen in the, say, in the blood tests? His blood will not agglutinate with any of the sera, so it can be mistakenly seen as blood group O, because they do not have H antigen, because their agglutination will not happen with either sera A, first sera, second sera or third sera, and according to the trick that I told you, their blood group should be O, but their blood group is actually blood group H, small h, Bombay phenotype, because they lack the H antigen and they don't even have the O antigen. Correct? So you can see the example of this case, that the mother over here has Bombay phenotype, even though she has blood group AA, but because of Bombay phenotype, what would happen, that the mother is a carrier. Correct? She is normal, but she has a carrier of Bombay phenotype gene. So she has blood group AA, and here the father has blood group AB, and he is a carrier, but here the child will what have? The child will have H and H, and this is recessive. This is the Bombay phenotype child, and this child who has blood group AB or AA genotypically will depict blood group O, as you can see over here. Mother with blood group A genotypically has AA, and she has a carrier for small h gene. Father with AB has HH, small h, again a carrier. Now the child inherits the Bombay phenotype gene in recessive stage, and even though genotypically you can see that the genes that are inherited should either be AB or AA, phenotypically the child shows blood group O. So this is the same thing that is happening here in our patient over here, but here the woman has blood group O, the woman has Bombay phenotype, and her blood group actually must be something else genotypically, but because of absence of H antigen, her blood group appears to be O, and therefore the child is normally her child and her husband's child, and this phenomena can be explained by Bombay phenotype or recessive epistasis. Correct? I hope you understood this. So depression and emotional insanities results from the deficit of noradrenaline, serotonin and other biogenic enzymes. Their concentration in the synapses can be increased by means of antidepressants that inhibit the following enzymes. So the deficiency of these enzymes results in depression, and there is a certain enzyme which degrades these various neurotransmitters, which is the enzyme monoamine oxidase. So monoamine oxidase is responsible for degradation of the amine neurotransmitters, the norepinephrine, the epinephrine, the serotonin and dopamine. There are two isoenzymes of monoamine oxidase, the MAO-A and MAO-B, and I told you, isoenzymes differ only in their tissue localization, First, MAO-A, it also the substrates. MAO-A here degrades serotonin, norepinephrine, dopamine, then tyramine, while MAO-B only, what does it degrade? Dopamine and phenylethylamine. And also there is differentiation of localization. So if you want these amine transmitters to remain in your body, so that you want to deal with depression, then you give certain drugs which inhibit monoamine oxidase, so that there is increased amount of these neurotransmitters and they are not degraded and they remain in the body, so that it helps in counteracting depression and anxiety. So 142 is that a 3-year-old child complains of stomatitis, gingivitis and dermatitis. I think you should already know if you have watched our previous video that this is a case of what disease? Stomatitis, gingivitis and dermatitis of open areas. This is beriberi, vitamin. Oh, this is pellagra. I'm sorry. The 4 Ds: dermatitis, diarrhea and dementia. Correct. Niacin, vitamin B3, nicotinic acid deficiency causes pellagra. You can see here we have dermatitis, we have gingivitis, we have stomatitis. There is a inherited disturbance of neutral amino acid transporting in the bowels. This is caused by the deficiency of niacin. Pellagra, remember it to understand from the symptoms. So vitamin B3 or niacin. 143 is during hypersensitivity test, the patient goes subcutaneous injection of an antigen which causes reddening of skin, edema, pain and result of histamine action. So histamine, the biogenic amine, is formed as a result of what? It is formed as a result of transformation of the following histidine amino acid through what mechanism? So we told you the biogenic amine histamine is formed from histidine with the help of decarboxylation reaction. Histidine converts into histamine, which is a vasodilator. It lowers the blood pressure, stimulates gastric HCl secretion, and the reaction that converts histidine into histamine is decarboxylation of amino acids. Correct? So histidine is converted to histamine with the help of decarboxylation. 144, a patient with suspected diagnosis, muscular dystrophy that is progressing, got his urine tested. What compound will confirm this diagnosis if it is found in urine? Remember, creatine is a storage form of energy molecules, high energy phosphates, and it is present in the muscles. It is stored in the muscle so that it can be used when the muscle needs energy for their contraction. So if there is muscular dystrophy, then the membranes of the cells of the muscles, the myocytes, will be destroyed and creatine will be released into the blood and it will be increasingly excreted in the urine. That is why the answer is creatine. Remember, we learnt also that creatine phosphokinase, the enzyme responsible for this reaction, will also be increased in urine and plasma. 145, the last question for the day. A patient complained about dizziness, memory impairment, periodic convulsions. It was revealed that these changes were caused by the product of decarboxylation of glutamic acid. Name this product. Just now we studied biogenic amines. Biogenic amines, glutamate on decarboxylation gives GABA, gamma aminobutyric acid. GABA is a major inhibitory neurotransmitter which inhibits the nerve impulses, and that is why the answer over here is GABA, by the decarboxylation of glutamic acid. Correct? And GABA deficiency, GABA is an inhibitory transmitter which causes these symptoms: dizziness, memory impairment, periodic convulsions. So that is all for today. I hope you loved this video. If you found this video successful for your preparation, if you found it helpful, please share the video with your friends and please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you have any doubts, you can contact us on our Instagram or our Facebook. The links are below. Also, don't forget to join our Telegram. Anyway, this has been good. See you in the next one.